Hey everyone, for the final time in 2024, it is the Redmen Originals podcast with me, Paul Machin, Chris Pajak, Dan Clubb, and we are joined by a very special guest, the one, the only, James Sutton as well, looking resplendent in velour. Looking very expensive today, mate.
Am I?
Yeah.
Throwing my telly money around with gay abandon. I don't often wear the law, but it feels fantastic.
Yeah. You've got a very. That looks like a New Year's Eve tracky top.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
I get what you mean there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it's kind of business casual.
Yeah, I like it. I'm a big fan of it. I wonder, and I don't know whether this is true in every city or town, but I like the concept of Liverpool that we have our best trackies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's trackies for best and there's trackies for just kicking about.
Yeah. There's some that you would never have a kick about in.
No.
And there's
I'm not going down the wreck in this.
Anyway, yes, we've got loads to discuss today, least of all Liverpool being sensational at football and showing West Ham in every way possible with a 5-0 demolition job. We have also got to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold, because why not? Because whether he wants people to talk or doesn't want people to talk, who honestly knows? Because it's a hand gesture done in a football match. It can be read anyway. We're going to see how many ways that has been read by our panel a little bit later on, and we're going to be wrapping up 2024 as we head into 2025 as well with the best moments of the year. So before we do, two things to draw everyone's attention to. First and foremost, we've got a brand new t-shirt on redmenmerch.com. If you haven't been on there post-Christmas, I highly advise that you do, because we've got another absolute belter from the hand of Abigail Rudkin. It is the Egyptian King t-shirt that is on there right now. So you want a little bit of Mo, just sat on the sponsor boards, soaking up the adulation of the crowd.
She's so talented.
Ridiculous.
So talented.
Absolutely ridiculous. So yeah, another absolute belter from Abby there. So you can get that on redmenmerch.com. And because we've got James here, we want to talk about his podcast, Mail My Matters. Kicking on, it was very, very new the last time you were on, but you're a few in at this point.
I'm 6 in at the moment.
Nice.
It's been good. It's been great. Yeah, I've been releasing them every fortnight, just to kind of get to grips with everything that goes into putting a podcast together. Like the people that are watching this probably have no idea of just quite how much work goes into putting something together like this, especially if you're doing visual and audio. Yeah. Like, it's a lot. And I've taken over the editing now as well. Ooh. Yeah, so I am multicam editing and grading and colour matching and loads of other terminology that I barely understand.
You've heard lots of people say it.
Yeah.
The people are just on the other table in the show.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But it's great, and do you know what? I'm absolutely loving it, and I'm learning a lot as well, which is a really fascinating byproduct of sitting down with some really interesting men and having some really in-depth conversations about really important stuff. It's having a really kind of positive sort of visceral effect on me as well, which is brilliant.
Amazing. I'll get on to instagram.com/mailmindmatters for all the latest info on it. We'll bang that link in the description.
And I've got Captain Price coming out as well on New Year's Day. Barry Sloane is coming on New Year's Day, which is well worth everyone's time. Excellent. If you're into Call of Duty.
Okay. Very cool indeed. Cool. And I'm coming on a couple of weeks.
Yeah, and you're coming on the show as well, which is going to be brilliant. A deep dive into Paul Machin.
The psyche of Paul Machin.
What will we uncover?
Could be a mess. Tune in for that one. I've mentioned the Instagram, but elsewhere.
Yeah, everywhere you'd go to listen to a podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. It's got a YouTube channel as well, if you want to watch it rather than listen to it. Just everywhere you would go and listen to a podcast.
I am very keen to say that there are 682 followers on Instagram. I reckon from people watching and listening to this, we can get that. We can get that easily over 700, right? Maybe even to 800. Let's see if we can do that in the coming days. Mail Mind Matters on Instagram, right? West Ham 0, Liverpool 5. Christopher Pajak, an absolute demolition job on West Ham, and it's not wrong to say, because we talked about it pre-game, West Ham have got some really good footballers, so they're a weird team. You can't get too cocky beforehand, but yeah, I mean, they had a couple of moments which I'm sure will come up in, throughout the conversation, but we did absolutely
just
batter
a
them.
dominating performance pretty much from the get-go, wasn't it? I mean, for me, it was Liverpool's best performance of the season, the fluidity with which we played, the freedom with which we played, the nous with which we played, and the confidence. There was just everything in it, wasn't there? And, you know, for me, you know, we will talk about it in depth, but it was the centre midfield. It was the three players in the middle of the park that just allowed us to go on and take control of that game. And, you know, Gravenberch, McAllister puts in his best performance, a real sort of eye-opening performance for McAllister. Obviously, Curtis Jones as well was superb. But, you know, we've had games where McAllister last season had big performances, but not so much this season, where he has put his fingerprints on the performance. Everywhere you looked, he was either winning the ball back or playing a through ball, and he was just magnificent. And he's needed that, because we've seen him play the 6 really well last season. We've seen him play the 10 really well last season. We haven't seen him dominate a game like he did yesterday.
Yeah, he was magic. He was absolutely magic, Jay, because it just felt like, yeah, you know, like not as coming out party almost, but because we've seen how good he can be, as Chris says there.
But it was as well.
But in the same, yeah, but in that position, because he has been ticking over. I think he's gone under the radar, but like not in a good way, you know, like in a way that he's kind of not been drawing plaudits. You know, people know that he's a good player, he's got the song and stuff, but I just don't think he's had performances this season that have come close to his best performances last season. This game was the closest we've had to that.
Yeah, he was incredible. I think if it wasn't for Mohamed Salah's performance, I think he's the one who's taking all the headlines today, actually. And I think it's almost a bit of a disservice to only talk about Salah, because I mean, you're absolutely right. I think the midfield three as a whole, I thought the balance was really, really strong last night. The calmness and the assurance of Gravenberch, and then you've got McAllister. There's so many times where I thought he was going to lose the ball, and a lesser player probably would have lost the ball. But he's just so skillful. He's so strong, he's so skillful, and he's got such an eye for a pass that the transition is lightning quick when he's involved. And I think if that's kind of the benchmark of what we expect from McAllister going forward, I think it's incredible. Yeah. And Curtis Jones as well. You know, that's not, you know, it's really hard to pick, I think, prominent performances from last night's game, because everybody was brilliant. But Curtis Jones, again, you know, bombing forward, another attacking option last night, and just the link-up play, it's all there. But for me, it's the balance. That's what I loved last night about it.
I thought it was interesting about the game, because I watched Match of the Day back this morning, Dan, and you'd think West Ham had loads more of it in the first half, and you'd think Kudus was absolutely sensational, whereas I was impressed enough by him. But yeah, because when you condense down some of the key moments and remove a few of the other ones, then it did look a lot more West Hamish. But I certainly never really felt that. I know we've got Robertson's mistake early doors, which sends them away, and they could do better with that one. You know, if Paqueta doesn't slip, maybe you get a better contact. It's a presentable opportunity, if not an absolute sort of dead cert of a chance. Kudus hits the post as well, which again looks good. It looks edgy, looks nervous, particularly because it then comes back across the goal, because it's the inside of the post, but it's a pretty low sort of likelihood chance in and of itself. But yeah, I think what was good about it is that, again, Liverpool started brightly, withstood a couple of little rocky moments, and then once they got the goal, they really just never looked back.
Oh no, far from it. Yeah, we showed our class, didn't we? We were miles clear of them in terms of superiority, and it was a bit of a procession, actually. And I think you're right, the moment West Ham did have, they mainly came through Mohamed Kudus, actually. He was quite instrumental in what they do, which is no great surprise. He's a very good footballer who hasn't really got going this season. But yeah, once we got a stranglehold on the game, we did not give them a single inch thereafter. What was really interesting about it, obviously the goal is a staging point, a big one in the game. And just to round off on the McAllister point just quickly, that break he had enforced, albeit it's done him the world of good. It looks like he looks refreshed and ready to go all of a sudden again, which is great news.
Am I right in thinking that he had a really good spell around this time last year as well? Because he was injured, wasn't he, around Christmas, and then he came back in.
And the Fulham goal wasn't too dissimilar.
Well, hang on a minute, does it coincide with the fact that he's not had an international break for a few weeks?
Could help.
This is the biggest gap in between international breaks all season, isn't it?
And like I say, the suspension has probably to give doing 2 games off, I think it was. So yeah, he's done him loads and loads of good. But no, in terms of the game itself, no, we were just miles clear. But what was interesting about it is that despite going 1-0 up, West Ham then had a couple of flurrier moments, and then Gomez goes off, obviously, in that. So that felt like a bit of a setback. Kudus hits the post in that moment as well. But the way we react to that was just sensational, because it doesn't rock us at all. We just go up the other end and take complete control of the game. So yeah, we were to a man yesterday, just exceptional.
I'll highlight the momentum chart for people watching on YouTube, and I'll try to describe it for people listening on podcast. It's basically like if you got a paintbrush, a really thick paintbrush, and dipped it in as much paint as humanly possible, and then drew a straight line, and then let the paint run exclusively downwards into the territory that would be classed as Liverpool's. That is effectively what the momentum chart looks like. And you know, there are a few little moments of West Ham, as mentioned there. I think that little flurry between our first and second goals, where Gomez goes off, I think it takes a moment for us to kind of work out exactly what we're doing. I remember there's one particular moment that the first thing Quansah does is he runs like 20 yards up the pitch out of position to try and win it, gets nowhere near it, and then is a bit lost in the midfield. And then after that, we settle down. And I think the fact, because we get the 2 quick-fire goal, the game's done. We've finished the game off before half-time, and so West Ham can have all those little moments, but it amounted to frig all.
Yeah, it did. And listen, for as great as Liverpool were, you were left scratching your head a little bit at how bad West Ham were as well.
Was, yeah.
I mean, we've seen low blocks before. That was supposed to be a low block, I think. Like, it was like West Ham went, oh, you know, you can double up on Mo Salah and he's still going to hurt you, so we just won't.
Won't put anyone near him.
We'll try that. They won't have seen this before. It's like, hang on, lads, this isn't going to work here, guys. This was ridiculous. I mean, they were just shit across the board. They weren't able to defend, and Liverpool just went, okay, well, are you sure you're going to leave all this space for all of our players? Because we can hurt you, you know, we're the top scorers in the league, and you've decided that you don't want anywhere within 20 yards of the best player in the world.
Surely if you come up against this Liverpool side, surely your tactics are you're going to be really, really compact. Why is there so much space everywhere?
Well, Nottingham Forest should be the blueprint.
Well, yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean?
And you've got 2 really confused fullbacks who aren't sure if they're meant to be going forward or staying back. Yeah. The whole thing's a complete. It was suicide.
It reminded me of like the later iterations of Footy Manager tactics, which I wasn't on to. It's like, oh well, I'm going to go all defensive. I'll put all these men back. That's ultra defensive, and then you get them beat still, and it's wide open. You can't wait, and then you discover there's another page that's got slider bars that determines like actually how attacking or not your team is. Like,
do you want our players to tackle? No.
All out attack, 10 men behind the ball. Like, I mean, that's basically what West Ham did. They went, we're gonna try a low block, except we're gonna basically play 40 yards from our goal while it was wild.
You've got the keep you up in the left back position. Highlighted and ticked.
Wan-Bissaka was up top for a bit, and it could have been. You said it was over there with them 2 goals in quick succession, which it absolutely was, but it could have been over long before that, were not for Ariola, who felt like he was having the best game of his life for 20. But then, what a performance! But then he still concedes 5. It could have been 9-10. It wasn't for him. And listen, we were a little bit wasteful as well. Let's have it right.
Well,
so
when we say we,
Mohamed Salah was a little bit wasted.
Best player in the world needs to fucking learn how to finish his dinner. Imagine if he could finish. What a player we'd have on our hands there. Like, because like some of the football we played, particularly, it was the part for me, that pass from Cody Gakpo into Salah really, really early on, and he has the near post effort on that one, but he had a handful. He had another one near post when he stabs at it when he really maybe should cut it across the face of the goal. Second half, he has a couple.
McAllister finds him with a ridiculous pass as well, and then Trent does it later on. The 2 would-be assists that we'll be talking about now. We've opened the show with them. You know what I mean? They were that good, those passes, and they amount to nothing.
Van Dijk as well. Some of his passing, especially up to Diaz, it's just fantastic.
Yeah,
and they flipped it one time when Diaz to Van Dijk.
Yeah, I know.
Van Dijk was top for a minute at the end.
I am absolutely 100% on board with Van Dijk as a 10. 100%.
Let's do it.
Yeah. He's the captain. He just picks his moments. Like, you
just come your arse, get him back.
People go, what are you doing? And he just goes, just points at the armband.
You go and get the ball, Diaz. I'm going to stay up here, play the false 9. Thanks very much.
We're wearing the wrong Christmas jumper. The other one had an armband, and I would have worked all better. Anyway, Salah. Let's stick with Mo Salah, because he's an absolute genius. James, he's a genius. He's a genius of football.
I don't have any words left. I've used all of the words. We're watching something just beyond special, and it feels like he's getting better. which is just the bizarre thing to say, because if you'd have asked me 2 or 3 years ago if I thought Mo Salah had hit his ceiling, I'd have probably said, yeah, I think he probably has. And I was probably thinking more about, right, what does the future look like for Mo Salah? Is there a changing role there? Is, there's conversations about perhaps, a more of an attacking midfielder role or something. But on the form he's in at the moment and on the back of last night, I mean, you'd have to say, best player in the world, should definitely be in the running for the Ballon d'Or. I mean, a team like West Ham, I mean, even on a good day, they probably haven't got many answers for Mo Salah. But when he's playing like that, and bless him as well in his interview where they said, did you mean that first nutmeg? And he's like, no. I was like, Mo, like, I know you've got this whole like stay humble thing that you're sort of bleating about at the moment, this sort of Erling Haaland quote. Mate, don't be humble.
He should have got,
you should have just smiled.
Exactly. Just say nothing and smile.
100%.
Just go.
Because I've
don't
you don't need to lie.
I've watched it back a couple of times this morning, and I can't work out what he did. I still can't work out the trajectory of the ball, the touch, how he's already on the half turn, knowing that it's going through the defender's legs. The whole he's a magician. I've run out of words.
I think he knew what he was doing. He just didn't know that it was going to go through the defender's legs, because I think his body, he knows where the ball's going, and he's sort of moving towards that already. He just didn't know it was going to make the player.
The speed of thought to carry on with it, if there was a bit of good fortune, is what sets him apart from anybody else. Because many might think, oh, look, now the ball's there, but he's already so far ahead of play that he can carry on and then nutmeg somebody else. Genius.
It was another performance for me why I think, if all those arguments on which player is better, and the thing about Salah is that he wins. He can now win the vast majority of them, if not all of them, because he's got numbers and he's got silverware to back it up as well. So, like, cool, come at us with something else. But the thing he doesn't have is he's awkward at times, isn't he? You know what I mean? So I get it. I get when people go, why people persist with saying Hazard, when even Eden Hazard himself has come out and said, like, I'm not as good as Mo Salah.
Never was.
Like, literally, like the guy himself, and and a man who's not known for his humility, by the way, was coming out and saying that. But I get it, because he's not smooth in so much that he does, and you saw it with the dribble through for Jota's goal, where it's brilliant. You know what, Salah's skills don't stand up to slow motion. No. That's his problem. In real time, you're like, and I was there with the goal for Cody Gakpo, going, he's a genius, and then you watch it back and you go, oh, that's a bit messy. Okay, well, it worked, everybody. Some players don't need slow motion. Some players just need it to be a normal time.
We had that with Luis Suarez though as well, where he'd play 1-2s against defenders, and you go, you have absolutely no God-given right to get past that defender, but somehow you have, and it's the somehow you have bit that's important. Ultimately, doesn't care about the slow-mo, the little clips with the music over the top. No one really gives a shit. Do you know what I mean?
Unless you're signing the player.
Unless we're trying to research him, in which case, all the more of those. But I mean, it just unbelievable. Unbelievable.
He's something else. In terms of records, then, he's the first player to register a goal and an assist in 8 different Premier League matches in a single season.
December.
He's got 23 assists in all comps. 23 assists in all comps in 2024, the most by any Liverpool player in a single calendar year in the Premier League era. I mean, and it's just it's obscene. Yeah. It's genuinely obscene, because I keep thinking Cody Gakpo's in great form, isn't he? And they are, and you go and every now and again I'll go and I'll check like Liverpool's goal scorers for the season. I'm a big fan of keeping abreast of these kind of things. And then you look at, I'll get it up on FBref, but like Cody Gakpo, who is in a sensational form, all comps, Cody Gakpo's got 11 goals. Mohamed Salah's got 20. All comps, Cody Gakpo's got 4 assists. Mohamed Salah's got 17. It's ludicrous, absolutely ludicrous. We are genuinely privileged to watch a player of this sort of quality turn out for Liverpool on a week-by-week basis. The thing I like about it, Dan, it's the playing style. I think James touched upon it there or a little earlier. He's changed his game. So he still does use the pace when it's required. He has got pace. He's just not faster than everyone else, but he hasn't been that for a while now. But the way in which he plays and the way in which Liverpool afford him to play as well, by the way, is that I can't see how this iteration of Mo Salah can't be this good next year. and the year after, and who knows after that, but at least in the short term, another year or so, I could quite easily see how this guy does that, because look at what Spurs are doing to Son. They're running him into the ground, asking him to do things that his body can't do anymore. Kevin De Bruyne has, reached that sort of stage of his career. Kyle Walker's having a similar thing as well. The game's built on a certain type of physicality, and when you lose that, you lose it. Salah just feels like he's adapted his game, and he's almost a complete forward now. I think his minutes to goals ratio this season is better than anyone's ever done in the history of the Premier League.
Yeah, it's frightening.
Minutes to goal contribution.
I've seen that this morning. It's ludicrous, and everything that Mo Salah does is ludicrous right now. All the records that keep tumbling every time he steps onto a footy pitch. But no, I think you're right. The way he's transformed what he doesn't suggest that drop-off is going to come anytime soon. And not just that, because...
But this isn't just looking at his abs, like I think we were doing in the summer.
But that is a point, because like the way he looks after himself is a big reason as to why that's the case as well. But it's the intelligence of which he's realised that the peak of his powers in terms of his pace and his ability to be faster than everyone else, just run away from everyone else, has probably gone and diminished a little bit. You can't keep doing that for 90 minutes now. So it's just changed. And some of the moments yesterday, I mean, the presence of mind for the goal they actually ends up setting up to not chase the initial ball because he knows he's offside. Just even stuff like that, the sort of minutiae of those details, just absolutely sensational. But yeah, I'm with you. I can't envisage a world now whereby in the next 24, 36 months, whatever it may be, he's going to diminish or stop playing the way he is, because he's just so good and he's just so different now to what he once was. And when you're reading off some of the numbers there, I sort of scoffed at the assist elements of it, because when we signed Mo Salah, that didn't feel like a massive part of his game. It never felt like it was going to be. But it never felt like it was going to be either. So again, it just speaks to how he's managed to change what he does and appreciate those around him and just become a better version of Mo Salah all over again.
Yeah, and he's not lost goals for it either. Like,
no, he hasn't.
He's just added assists to what he did in his first season, basically, isn't it? I mean, you're talking in 2024, 52 goal involvements in 44 appearances. Over the full course of 24, 64 minutes per goal involvement. Higher than anybody else. Michael Reed did a tweet if you wanted to bring it up. I think it was yesterday or whatever.
I don't not want to bring it up.
It's absolutely ridiculous what he's been able to do. I mean, you say it was his pace has sort of dropped off. Fully agree with that. And he's looked at it and gone, I haven't got the pace anymore. This right foot, could I do something with this right foot maybe? I've not really used that before. Now he's discovered this right foot's not that bad. It's not just for running quickly. He started to use that occasionally as well.
The
and
outside the left.
And he's looking at the outside of the left. And he's going, I'll take a little bit of that as well if you don't mind. It's just like his drop off, if there is to come, means he's Saka.
Yeah,
and that's a big drop off, by the way. Huge drop off.
I just want to make a point on your point from the Michael Reed, which I've got here. Mo Salah will end 2024 with the most goal involvement of any player for clubs in Europe's big 5 leagues in all competitions. He has scored or assisted a goal every 64 minutes on average. I would highlight that for the back half of last season, he was rubbish.
And he was in AFCON for January.
He got injured. Was injured and then was pretty rubbish for the rest of the season after that. So he's achieved that largely on this season's, numbers. So I mean, to be fair, you can look at it. 44 appearances, 29 goals and 23 assists in that time.
In the best league in the world.
So
in the most competitive league in the world.
This season, he's got 20 and 17 assists. So, like, the lion's share of this is happening in this part of the year as well. So, yeah, much credit to Mo. Out of interest, I just wanted to quickly go back and check. I'm just going to wait for this page to load in to corroborate what I'm about to say. But I've gone back to 17-18, which was obviously Mo's first season at Liverpool. He had a whopping 57 goal contributions in all comps that season, 43 goals and 14 assists. So like obviously the assists were there, but this is the point of what we're saying. He's outstripped the number of assists in his best ever season halfway through this season already. So will he get to that goal, those numbers of goals? But probably not, but it's not outside the realms of possibility. But again, as a creative force as well, he's driving this team forward in ways that he didn't have to.
And this isn't a lad who takes corners either or free kicks to get, what will Saka get, maybe 4 or 5 assists a season from corners, probably 15 this year from corners. I mean, it's like, he takes the penalties, of course, don't get me wrong, but like the assist numbers with no free kicks is wild.
I've just noticed that I never even thought about this. He only scored 1 penalty in 17-18 as well to get those numbers, which is outrageous when you think about it. Absolutely outrageous. Whereas he's got 5 from the spot already this season. So long may that continue from Mohamed Salah, really, because he's special player. Let's spread the conversation out to the front three. Dan, do we think this is our best front three? Gakpo, Diaz, Salah?
Yeah, I said prior to the game yesterday, I think on form and fitness, you'd have to say yeah. And I think fitness is doing quite a lot of the heavy lifting there. Because I still maintain if Jota gets up to speed, and he showed it yesterday, really, in his cameo. I don't think he was at it particularly, or it wasn't a sort of a key reason as to us seeing how the game in the man that we did. But then he gets his moment, he scores his goal. That's kind of just what he does. So I maintain if Jota is fit and firing, he has a conversation around the centre forward role. But listen, I think again, for certain opposition, I think Diaz might always be the chosen one for a little bit now, because it feels like Arne Slot's really struck upon something with him. Yeah. And when centre halves like to play up against a more conventional number 9, I think it might just be Diaz, just to throw them off kilter a little bit and drag them into spaces they don't want to be, because it allows midfielders to advance a bit more, and it works ultimately. So again, I think in certain games that probably is the answer, but nobody will tell me that Jota isn't the answer more often than not in most sort of circumstances.
Jota's got very flat track bully vibes for me. You know what I mean? There's going to be teams where teams are going to defend and he's just going to get the ball and he's just going to kick it in the goal. And he's going to do that with the minimum of sort of fuss.
Like yesterday.
Yeah, really. But the interesting thing to see over the next few weeks really is we had this under Klopp, where as the team evolved and he got he got his head around what our players were capable of, things that became, we'll do this in certain instances, became so good that they became the things that we did every week. Trent at right back being probably the shining example of that, but Firmino was the false 9. Divock Origi was very, very favoured, at times early under Klopp before his injury. Yeah. But that season also, we did see Firmino used in the false 9, and that was like our special occasions. We'll break this 4-3-3 thing out and it'll look really, really good. But then eventually that became the one. But the way he's playing it, Chris, Diaz, he's being a threat across the front line. He's being creative and he's scoring goals as well. So really, he looks like he probably is the top of the pecking order.
I think Jota is probably a better finisher than Diaz. I don't think many people would disagree, but there are 3 top scorers and they're playing up front. Like, that's not a bad thing. And fitness, again, probably hampers Jota in this conversation. But when you look at it, I think it just meshes together really nicely because Diaz wants to go over to that left-hand side. And that's just freeing up space for runners from midfield like Curtis Jones. And it's freeing up space in the centre of the pitch for Mo Salah to get involved in. And, just look at the first goal last night. It's a very Jota finish, actually, the first goal for me from Diaz. Yeah. Now, I know he plays the 1-2 with the West Ham player. Amazing. But if you look back before that, he drops deep and Curtis Jones is in the middle of the front 3. He drops deep, picks the ball up. Curtis makes the run that Diaz tries to flick it outside of the boot too. And that space opens up. Well, that wouldn't happen with a Darwin Núñez maybe in that number 9 position. Jota, potentially, it would happen exactly the same. So I do feel like Slot has now found this. I think he'll struggle getting away from it. And I think part of that is to do with you trust the hot hand, of course, but you also trust that Diaz is going to be available more. And so when you're trying to build a fluidity between the front 3, it's probably easier to do it with Diaz because you kind of know that he's going to be there most weeks.
The slight issue you've got with it, though, James, is if in moving Diaz to centre forward, you've also lost one of your stronger options off the wing in doing that as well. So we've got no shortage of lads who can play centre forward. To add another one into that mix, you're just adding probably maybe in some regards kind of unnecessary depth to a position where we already possess that. That's something they might need to keep an eye on, and maybe that's something that does inform the transfer market if he sticks with Diaz as a centre forward.
Yeah, but I like how interchangeable him and Gakpo are becoming as well, because I thought that as much as you are absolutely right, Chris, I think Diaz's natural instinct is to go on the left wing, and I thought that certainly last season that was much more of a sort of prominent position for him. I actually love him coming inside now, actually, and I think Gakpo, going out to the wing, which happened a few times last night as well. I think that's what I'm really, really loving is that workmanship between the two of them, and it's that other option that we've got now because Diaz is great. You're absolutely right. He's no Diogo Jota. If Jota could stay fit for even just 6 months of the season, I think Jota is.
It's a stretch though, isn't it? I thought you were going to say 10 games. I was thinking.
No, but if
6 months,
give it half a season. If Jota's fit for half a season, a solid half season, I think he's your.
Yeah,
I think he's your centre forward because I think he's more of a classic centre forward. But actually, if you only get 40% of Diogo Jota games, I'm kind of okay with that because we've got the interchangeable other two to come in who are, I mean, Nunez aside, and I don't really want to talk about Darwin Nunez, I'm bored of it. But those two can fulfill so many different roles up top that actually it's fine. We've got the sum of the parts is stronger than it would be, ordinarily.
Yeah, I think James is right, and I think the other way to maybe look at it, to your point, Paul, about weakening it, I think you're right. I think it's spot on. But can you use Jota for 20, 30 minutes a game? Does that protect the other players enough and actually sort of wrap Jota in a little bit of cotton wool as well, where he's less likely to get injuries because he's not going through 90 minutes every week or something like that? Maybe that's an option for us. I dread to say this really, but can Chiesa maybe play over on that left hand side?
He definitely can do it.
Exactly.
He's done a lot of it.
Myth.
Not for us. He's done a lot
I
of
was
it.
told he could play football, but I didn't really get to see it.
Break out the Mythbusters. I mean, I suppose what we would do when Jota was fit was Gakpo was that role, and Gakpo was then resting one, giving Diaz a bit of rest and Jota a bit of rest or whatever. It's actually the beauty of Jota being the substitute is that if you bring him on for Diaz, then he just comes straight in, and if you bring him on for Gakpo, then you move Diaz over. So it works all right. And we were talking about this last night. Is when Liverpool have been great in the past, and look, the squad games become more pronounced because of more subs and all that kind of stuff. But if we can only keep those four fit for the rest of the season, that's probably the best attacking options we've ever had. Potentially, or certainly as good as the Firmino, Salah, Mane, and Jota. When he came into that mix. So and if you manage at some point to get a tune out of Chiesa, you're laughing. And I've totally and utterly glossed over Darwin Nunez, who is always fit and available. It bodes very well indeed. But I suppose we'll see in another week or two's time when Jota is properly back to full match fitness. What does he do? And at the moment, we're suspecting that Diaz will still get the Premier sort of games, but
I mean, Jota's scored 2 in is it 5 appearances since he's been back now in like
handfuls of minutes, really.
Less than 90 minutes. He's scored 2 goals. Yeah. That's the type of player he is, but also he's a fantastic substitute, Jota.
Yeah, and he's a nice halfway house, it feels like, from what we're talking about here, because he can do a lot of the link-up and he can interchange. He's played a little bit out on the left himself in the not-too-distant past, so he does feel like he is that in-between between going for Diaz and obviously a Darwin Nunez type. I think Jota is the perfect solution to this. It's just whether you can trust him enough to play enough minutes, is whether you can get him fit enough to do this. So it will be very interesting to see what Arne Slot does when he has got all of these lads that we're talking about fit and available, and a big game comes along as well.
Just to back up Chris's point there, just looking at Jota's last 4 in the Premier League, fast math tells me 30, 40, 50, 60, 78, 77 minutes and 2 goals in that time. So yeah, encouraging that he's got
very,
that.
very encouraging.
And that's what he was when he came into the side. We had the front 3, and then you had this thing where Mane was coming off with 15, 20 minutes, half an hour to go, and Jota was coming in and scoring because you're just maintaining a level of pressure and a level of threat. So yeah, it's very, very, very good.
Especially when the other lads are in the absolute form of their life as well, because the form that we've seen now from the other two is they've come on leaps and bounds. These are the best versions of these lads. Yeah. So all of a sudden you've got not a tricky situation, but how do you leave any of them out? How?
Well, that's the beauty of this. I think you're right, and I was kind of thinking that as we were talking about Gakpo in particular. He's playing the best he's played at Liverpool, certainly in that position without a shadow of a doubt. And you don't want to upset that, because why would you? Because he's so good, hot hand, as you say, Chris. But also, Diaz is playing really well as well. So the solution is to get them all on the side, do what you're doing right now, and just run with that until it doesn't work, basically.
And also, I think over the last couple of weeks, to add on to that, the midfield's playing better with those three. And the way that they're playing as well. You know, the amount of runners in the box against Leicester was just ridiculous. McAllister, Jones, everybody just seems to know exactly where the front three are, what they're going to be doing. I wouldn't swap our front three at the form they're in at the moment for any front three in world football.
Agreed.
No, I agree.
Nice. Real Mac Oy with the $2 super chat asked the question, do you all still want Rubbish Gordon?
No. Absolutely not.
Well, listen, if we're going to play Luis Diaz as a centre forward, Anthony Gordon as the second choice behind Gakpo on the left hand side.
Lovely squad player.
Yeah, absolutely. Why not?
He scored a belter, didn't he, as well?
Yeah, he's a good player.
He's a good player. I'd still have him.
Rubbish Gordon.
Rubbish Gordon. I feel like that was a loaded question. It doesn't matter anyone else.
It really was.
Terrible comic, that.
Arne Slot. In 49 games in 2024, split of course between his previous club and ours, has only lost once in 90 minutes.
Okay. I've heard this stuff before, but the 90 minutes has never been added onto it.
What's the 90 minutes?
Suggests
he himself, he was asked about it and he said they lost to Roma on penalties or whatever. So like he's technically lost twice, is what he was saying. But in reality, in 90, he was correcting the stat and said I've lost more than once. But if you want to go in 90 minutes only, then the stat is correct, and he's only lost once to fucking Nottingham Forest.
He hates that Forest result, doesn't he? He hates it.
He congratulated Nottingham Forest. Didn't he? Fucking Forest.
Not a bad result now, that all of a sudden.
No,
goal difference down, if anything.
This is what I was expecting from the fucking Luton thing last year. It's all right if they go and get good results against everyone else, and by Jove, they have done. Good on Forest, but yeah, sensational. I mean, just goes to prove once again. It feels like Slot actually. You know, when we go by those lads who are like 23 and they've had one breakout season where it's not necessarily been numbers that are going to look like
it's the jump, it's the leap, isn't it?
They're ready for that next season. They're ready to go big, and it just feels like we've picked up Arne Slot exactly at that point. And the handover's been sensational. Right, we have to talk Trent Alexander-Arnold because he scored off the defender's face, which is even better, and obviously did like a Chatty Chatterson hand gesture. Now, Marker had come out in the days prior to this. I've got the article up with the wonderful Google English translation. The headline is, Liverpool already know that Alexander-Arnold wants to play for Real Madrid. The English fullback is clear about which team he plans to play for next season. Trent Alexander-Arnold's already told Liverpool's directors he wants to play for Real Madrid. The scene is taking place in the hands of the latest attempt by the directors of the Anfield club to achieve a renewal that is becoming more and more unlikely. The fullback's continuity is becoming impossible in the face of what seems to be evidence, which is none other than that the defender seems to have fallen into the arms of the seduction and enchantment of Real Madrid, and also because of the fact of living a new experience. He's made to Jude Bellingham, they go on to say, due to the fact that Liverpool's ownership didn't want to reach January 1st without resolving the renewal of his contract. So that, basically, Marker, and then Dan will probably be able to add more depth, I guess, to this, but the Spanish press are running heavily with the fact that Trent's made his decision, and Real Madrid is the answer.
Yeah, the propaganda machine's in full tilt mode, I think, as we approach January. I think AS was the other major Spanish outlet that also added a little bit more meat to those bones. I listen, in terms of interpretation and celebration, I only really took it one way, and that's a load of nonsense. And that is not accurate at all, because Trent will be very aware of all that noise. I'm absolutely certain of it. It absolutely engulfed and took over social media for the 24 hours preceding kickoff yesterday. You couldn't go on there without Trent stuff happening, basically, criticism, discussions, etc. I just think that was his reaction to it. He's been sort of very at pains to stress he doesn't want it played out in public. He doesn't want it discussed. I mean, all the best for that, Trent, ultimately. But yeah, I do think that was in response to a lot of people immediately saying that's him, then he's off to Real Madrid. Because I think the quote I seen was he's one step away from Madrid, and all that's missing is his signature and all that.
But did I see a bullet pointed breakdown of it and once something like he was wants to sign but keep it secret out of respect to Liverpool is one of the details in one of these things.
The best. Like, it's just impossible. Isn't it? It's just absolutely impossible. Like,
should have signed the NDA before that clause came out.
Yeah,
that's fucking ridiculous.
Ultimately, it's a mess, and it continues to be a mess until it's resolved one way or the other, basically. And that could be said for all three of them. But Trent, in particular, feels like the messiest of all the situations. But again, I only can read that celebration one way because you just wouldn't do it otherwise. Like, you just celebrate. You know what I mean? You don't need to react. You don't need to add fuel to the fire. I just think that's him basically saying, "Don't believe everything you hear."
That my general sense of it was that a bit like, people are going to keep talking, just keep talking. I'm just going to keep playing and doing my business, which I kind of like. But the problem with this stuff is, James, is that. Yeah, I get it, and I get the notion behind that of wanting to do this stuff behind closed doors, but you're a superstar of football, and two of the biggest clubs in world football want you to play for them. You know, one of them is your boyhood club. Our fan base are have strong opinions on people who are perceived to not want to play for Liverpool anymore. So doing a gesture in a football match is open to interpretation, and it's another example where I don't think it actually really helps them, because there'll be loads of aggregator websites who've picked up and ran with that in the more negative sense, because they'll know they'll get clicks out of it, and all it's really done is actually added fuel to a fire rather than calmed anything down.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think that the club have to be held seriously culpable for the situation that we find ourselves in. I mean, it's really, really bad business to allow this to happen. You know, we're not just talking about three average players. We're talking about three world-class players here. To have allowed it to get to this stage, and I read an article the other day. I can't remember where it was, but it was saying that actually it hasn't actually harmed the stuff on the pitch yet, and actually we're flying kind of in spite of all the chatter and the noise, and that's really, really great. But if we lose a couple of games, or we have a couple of dodgy performances on the back of another article in the Spanish press, all of a sudden it becomes, well, Liverpool's season is becoming derailed because of Trent Alexander-Arnold. I actually don't think Trent Alexander-Arnold's done anything wrong, and I don't understand. I don't want to offend anyone, because we're all football fans, we're all Liverpool fans, and we have a romantic association to the club. And with Trent coming through the academy as he has done, and professing to be a lifelong Red, and everything that comes with that, we as Liverpool fans expect him to have exactly the same connection to the football club that we have, right? And that's understandable. But he doesn't have the same connection to the football club that we have, despite being a Liverpool fan. It's business, it's a job, it's a career. Yeah. If Trent Alexander-Arnold wants to go and play for Real Madrid, I am 100% behind Trent Alexander-Arnold going to play for Real Madrid. 100%. He's got one career, one life. If he wants to go over there for a few years... Look, he came out publicly. I think he did an interview with... I can't remember who it was, for Sky, I think, and said he wants to win the Ballon d'Or. Okay, well, go to Real Madrid and win a Ballon d'Or. You know, as a fullback, go and see how far you get with that. It ain't gonna happen, but you know, go and try that. I've got no issue with it. What I've got an issue with is it taking place so publicly at a really important part of the season, when he's running out of days left on his contract. Everyone's social media's awash, and there is a load of noise surrounding it. And as I said at the top, you know, if we do start to put in some dodgy performances, if we do start to lose games, all of a sudden it's at his door, and then it becomes an even more complicated conversation. Yeah,
I think it's terribly managed, obviously, by the football club. I think it's been terribly. If we don't get a contract over the line with Trent, I think it's been terribly managed by him. And for all the reasons that James was kind of talking about there, I think what it needs, if me as a Liverpool fan, and I wanted to go to Real Madrid, but I loved Liverpool, I would say, I'm going to decide my future at the end of the season. Put it all to bed.
I see what you're saying, yeah.
Put it all to fucking bed. We are focusing this, and everything becomes about, you'll find out at the end of the fucking year. We don't, the January 1st would be irrelevant at this point if he'd already said this. Nobody would be talking anymore. Yeah. So I think his agent, his brother and Trent should have done something like that if that's what they want. I cannot fathom why he would rather go there. Because if it's to win the Ballon d'Or like James, he ain't doing it there because Mo's doing it here. If he stays here, he ain't doing it here because Mo's doing it here. He's not winning the Ballon d'Or. He's not winning it as a right back. We talked about it yesterday. I think Cannavaro's the only defender maybe to have won the Ballon d'Or. It's just, he's got probably as good a chance as any defender in world football. But also, look at what is happening at this football club. Surely a Liverpool fan would understand that you've got just as good a shot of winning the big trophies here, and surely a Liverpool fan would understand that it means more here than anywhere else.
Yeah. But again, not to do. I do agree. But also, it's business and it's a career, and we have to we have to take off that romantic notion that it means more. It does mean more, of course it does. But also, if he's desperate to go for Real Madrid, he's desperate to go to Real Madrid.
Yeah, and then he can't call himself a Liverpool fan. In the same way, if it's business.
Exactly, but that's the dichotomy that he finds himself in. That's the position he finds himself in.
I get it if he was on 20 grand a year and he was moving for 40 grand a year. Like, I get it, but like we're not. But
we're not in his head, and we don't know.
We're not talking small sums of money here. We're talking 350 grand a week to 350 grand a week. Like that.
Realistically,
is it the business? Does business mean money?
Yeah, because you become a brand, don't you? It's all of that side of it that I think the Spanish clubs, certainly Real Madrid, they have over.
There's a chance of building a legacy as one of the greatest ever to play the game if he leaves Liverpool, and I hate that that's the truth.
It's one hell of a risk though, because he's jeopardising what he has done here.
Oh yeah.
And it has to work ultimately. The Real Madrid move. 'Cause if it doesn't, he's jeopardised Liverpool. Legacy, tarnish that, for want of a better expression, and at the risk of maybe it not working out in Real Madrid. And then where is he?
And that's, look, the thing is, I don't think great footballers think about the
maybe
risk. Because every one of us looked at Michael Owen and went, what the, mate, just look at who's there. You know what I mean? You've got Ronaldo and Van Nistelrooy and Raul in that squad, mate. Like, you mean, all the best if you think you're getting game time, and it didn't work out for him. But, you know, if they're wooing him and they're promising him a future, that'll be part and parcel, and they clearly have. So the stuff that Trent's been coming out with, it feels very much like it's come from the hymn sheet of a Real Madrid thing. The Ballon d'Or stuff is very Real Madrid speak. That's like if you go and do the stadium tour at Real Madrid, that's the kind of thing you come out like you've been brainwashed into thinking a particular way. But I do agree. I don't see that. I think you're probably more likely to win the Ballon d'Or at Real Madrid in general, because more Ballon d'Or winners probably come from Real Madrid. And there might statistically be something that tells me that that's not true, but it certainly feels that way. But Vinicius Jr. is going to win it probably next year or the year after, just on the fact that Real Madrid are politicking to make that happen, or spitting the dummies, you know, out the pram or whatever. You know, Jude Bellingham's at the same football club as so he's going to take a certain amount of the votes in that regard as well. So I don't think actually as an individual player he's more likely, because there's going to be a bunch of superstars who are catching the eye, perhaps more. I don't know, but that's his challenge, you know, and he'll think he's got to live up to that, and that's up to him to decide. I hadn't thought of it from your perspective. The fan thing's
really interesting.
But the fan thing, actually, I hadn't considered, in that you can be a Liverpool fan, but being a Liverpool fan when also playing for the club is different to just never having played for it, because it's got like a mystery and a wow factor to it. There's something special. We'd all play for Liverpool for nothing. Like, we can't understand, like, if Barcelona couldn't afford Messi, why didn't he just play for free for Barcelona? Yeah, I would, but footy doesn't work like that.
Exactly, because you've got agents and you've got family members and you've got accountants and you've got people throwing brand deals and sponsorship deals at you. I mean, you look at someone like Cristiano Ronaldo. You know, you hold that up as the kind of, you know, the benchmark of what building a brand as a footballer can look like. He's not even, he's R9. That's your, you know, what it's. That's what he's looking at. He's looking at, right, how can I build an actual? How can I become a global figure? Can I do that at Liverpool? Can I do that at Real Madrid? It's sad, but I can't. I think it's done. I really do.
Does Trent have any business interest in one of the Formula One teams?
No, he's not sure. He goes to watch a lot of the Formula One. He's on the grid and all that.
I'm sure he's got business interest. Actually, you know, the brand thing probably quite interesting for me, James, because if you are having interest in, can anyone let me know in the comments actually if he's got a part in something? I'm sure he's got a small part in maybe an Alpine, right, or something like that. I can't remember. That could be interesting, because Beckham had aspirations of owning
Alpine Racing or something.
Yeah. So that's interesting. That actually feeds into what I was sort of thinking about, is Beckham went to Real Madrid, got himself this MLS deal, got himself a football club or franchise. Like, Liverpool you're not best positioned to do that post-Liverpool, if you stay at Liverpool
No.
your entire career. If you've got aspirations of being a sport owner and stuff, then actually Real Madrid, from that regard, to back up James's point and go against mine, probably is a better place.
Just from the perspective, though, you're saying this about like winning the big honours and all that. You might have I mean, I don't know. With Real Madrid seem to be win European Cups when they're nowhere even near the best team in Europe. So it seems to be easier. Yeah, it seems to be easier for them to do those things. But there is a thing. He's done it at Liverpool. I hate that. You know, that's, for some people that's enough.
Do it again.
Yeah, always right. You know, listen, it's right. But again, this is a lad who, you know, he doesn't live in the city of Liverpool, so he doesn't walk the streets of it. So it's not the same as the Liverpool players of the past, where you live and breathe the city and you can't really be detached from it. Like Gerrard still went out in and around Liverpool. Robbie Fowler would go out in and around Liverpool. I don't think a lot of the Liverpool players do that anymore, and you can't really, unfortunately, in some regards. But it's just whether, look, I think the point that was most interesting to me is that thing of he's 26 and one of his best mates is over there and having a great time of it, and he might just think, well, I can. You know, and you might just reach a point. I mean, and again, just to put a limited example from our own experience, did you, James, from a soap actor perspective, did you go from Hollyoaks to was it Emmerdale you were on, and then back to Hollyoaks? So, and I know some of this will be done by the writers, but you know, there's you must see people who have been on that one show for their entire lives, their entire acting careers. But there are others who bounce around because, and whether it's the grass is always greener or whether it's just I just fancy challenging myself in a different way.
It's that. It's like change is really important. Like as an
you can still win soap awards here, mate, but you can win soap awards.
You can still come second. the most exciting part of being a professional actor is going and doing different jobs and playing different characters in front of different audiences and opening yourself up to different experiences. I've spent a lot of time on one show now, so that kind of I've sort of had to sort of turn my back on that side of it almost and go, right, what are my variables? What can I control within this job? What joy can I bring out of this job? And there's a lot to be said for staying on one show for a long time and knowing all the different characters and knowing your part and knowing how you fit in the fabric of that show. And if you compare that to Trent Alexander-Arnold at Liverpool, it is actually quite similar. You know, I made the decision to go over to Emmerdale, not because the grass was greener, just because I was like, this is going to be a fab experience.
Is it because there was grass?
I was going to say, I had to laugh. It literally would be green.
Actually, the grass was literally greener.
Remarkably green.
But no, you know, as I say, you know, I try and think, you know, our time on the, not to get too sort of, you know, metaphysical about it, but our time on this planet is so finite and you've only got one career. And as a footballer, your career is so short. I don't begrudge Trent Alexander-Arnold anything. He doesn't owe us anything. You know, he's made huge sacrifices. Yes, he's you know, got the spoils of playing for a big football club, and he's got trophies and he's got notoriety and money and all of those things. But he doesn't owe us anything. The sacrifices that he's made as a child, you know, he's had to work harder than hundreds and hundreds of children to get anywhere near the Liverpool first team. And I think if his mind is made up and he wants to do that, I think we have to give him our blessing and say thank you for the trophies that you helped us win.
I just want to know at this point.
Yeah, I just want to know. Yeah, absolutely.
Because I can live with it. Because again, we said this when Klopp was leaving, I was devastated, and it's actually hit me harder than any player leaving has done in a very, very long time. But life goes on. I'm trying to say this to people. We had this when Chloe was on the show a while back. I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen if Salah leaves? I was like, we'll just buy someone, and they'll be brilliant for Liverpool. It might not be the direct Salah replacement, but someone else will become our favourite player in any team, because it does.
Conor Bradley's great.
Yeah, but equally, it's funny because this is the problem. But I've also, when Sterling was leaving, I was like, it's okay because Jordan Ibe's going to be the one to step on. We delude ourselves sometimes to thinking we'll be better. Trent will be the first player in a long time to leave with possibly his best years still ahead of him. You know, we had happened with Raheem Sterling. It technically happened with Coutinho. Emre Can was a similar one, although a much lower sort of quality example by comparison. Torres maybe a little one in there. Suarez certainly. And we haven't had that for a while. I think that's what stings is the idea that someone who's in their prime doesn't want to play for Liverpool is hurts as a fan. But as a human, I can see it from the other side, but it doesn't mean it isn't a kick in the teeth if he doesn't want to play for Liverpool.
Just to play devil's advocate ever so slightly, is there a world whereby there's a compromise in all of this? If he does want to play for Real Madrid eventually, you can have that conversation with him, but he signs a 2-3 year contract extension with a decent sized release clause in it. So Liverpool get some money for him at some point, and if he does want to fulfil his dream to play for Real and build his brand and whatever, if they really want him, they can come and pay for him at that point. I know Real Madrid won't like that, but he's a Liverpool lad. He's come through the ranks.
This is the game Real Madrid play. Real Madrid will be saying it's this or nothing, mate.
Yeah, they will.
Now or never.
That's
That's how they do it. Because they'd have just bought Mbappe at some point. You know what I mean? You know, PSG, I'm certain, would have accepted below market valuation at some point over the last 3 years, just to end the circus around the whole thing. But that's what they do, and not what you know. And we had this with Michael Owen. We all go, Michael Owen absolutely shit his pants. He should have dug in and then got the transfer at the fee that was acceptable to Liverpool to come back. But he shit the bed and went to Newcastle because he was so concerned about it. It's Real Madrid. Real Madrid don't get bullied. You don't tell Real Madrid what to do for better or for worse, unfortunately. So I love the notion of that. But
also the signing on fee for a new contract versus what he was getting at Real Madrid is incomparable.
Is something I've just thought of. We don't know if Arne Slot fancies Trent Alexander-Arnold. We don't know if he fits into Arne Slot's system. Arne Slot's a new manager at this football club. He's still figuring it out. He's still working with the players he's got. He still hasn't had a transfer window of his own to really, a summer transfer to go, right, these are the lads that I want to bring in. We don't know what that is. So there is a world where actually he's got the manager's blessing to talk to other clubs and to have those conversations and sign those contracts.
It ain't this world though.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, no,
I know I take your point, but like I think there are players where you just go, yeah, it's not what I've been used to because there isn't another right back like him.
I think he's done that with Trent recently. I think early days in this Arne Slot tenure, that might have been a proper conversation, but I think the past 4 or 5 weeks we've seen Trent
because he's
be like
defending brilliantly.
He is defending brilliantly.
And so, we're so cool. You can go and play however you want to play, provided you do all the jobs that's expected of you defensively. But you've got that sorted, you can do what you want. And I think that's
we're all
almost
seeing that now.
Yeah, exactly. So as much as I love Bradley, we've not seen a full season of Conor Bradley yet, so it's naive to think that he's going to, although when he's fit, he's something else. That's
so good.
You know, that lad is so high. But you're right. It's like you make allowances for world-class footballers because world-class is world-class.
You fit them in anywhere.
Exactly. Yeah. You know, a team of 11, any 11 world-class footballers will probably beat 11 lads who are born and bred for the positions in a particular team, have trained their whole lives to be it, but are just average footballers. You could throw 11 Zidans into a team and they'd probably just beat you because that's how good. You
Get
know,
the ball off them for a start.
Yeah, 100%. Joan Alvizzo with the super chat here says, Trent can be this generation's Gerrard unless he leaves. Legend or just another name in Madrid. It's tough that because I think the defending thing has tainted too many people's perceptions of Trent. I almost just wish he'd been a midfielder from day one because I think he would be on an even higher pedestal than he is now, unfortunately. Because it doesn't feel like there's enough people. We should be like rioting. We should be marching on the streets of Liverpool, demanding he gets whatever contract he wants. And I don't know if it's just me, but I don't feel like that. There's that groundswell in the same way that there seems to be for Salah. I'd agree.
No,
disagree?
I tend to agree. There's a lot of animosity towards, and I wonder if that's in part due to the reporting and sort of the acceptance that he is just Real Madrid bound. It feels like it's sort of fast forwarded beyond the anger towards Liverpool and it's gone straight to why is he leaving us like this, basically. The Gerrard thing's really interesting, and it kind of comes into your point as well. This conversation I had with Errol literally this morning, like, what does he aspire to be? Is it Steven Gerrard? Or is it somebody who's got their own brand and is a global superstar that sort of transcends Liverpool Football Club? If it's Steven Gerrard, he sticks around, he sees out the rest of his playing days here. But is it different? Is it just not in football terms, by the way? Is it Michael Jordan? Is it other sports types? You know what I mean? So it's a fascinating one.
He's not going to be captain. If Virgil van Dijk signs a contract extension, he's not getting the captain's armband till 28. Possibly, maybe even
unless they're
longer.
Passing over the guard,
unless they do
does
that.
happen.
He's a different player, and he's a different type of player. He's a different mentality and a different in a different time. You know, football has changed so much over the last 10, 15 years since Steven Gerrard was, you know, looking at Chelsea and looking elsewhere, and there were those conversations going on. It's different now. You know, the opportunity to build a brand, not to go back to that again, but the opportunity to do that 10, 15 years ago just wasn't there in the same way as it is now.
No.
And Trent Alexander-Arnold is a new breed of player who are conditioned by not just the wider world, but also their agents and family members. Right, how much money can we make out of this? What can we do with this? What investments can we make? How can we diversify your portfolio? And all of that kind of chatter. Whereas Steven Gerrard was very much, you know, where can I make the biggest impact? How can I be the best player? How can I win the most trophies? That was Gerrard's mentality. And that's why, you know, him staying at Liverpool was so successful, because that mentality just doesn't come along very often. They're very, very different players.
Just on football terms, though, to bring it to that, like you said it before, Chris, like the best place for him to be right now, pretty much in the world, is Liverpool Football Club. When you look at what we're doing, top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League, like Real Madrid has its appeal, of course it does, and it has its appeal in the football food chain, let alone the business side of things. But if he is looking at where my best in terms of my development, in terms of my prospects of winning trophies, I would argue it's right here. Yeah. And I have a lot of sort of leeway and sympathy with all three of them, not just Trent, by the way, when it comes to rewind 6 months. What does Liverpool look like post Jurgen Klopp? You've got to sit and hold tight, aren't you, and say, let's just see what this new fella's all about. Let's see the cut of his jib. Fast forward to where we are now, and it's pretty impressive. So I'd be inclined to sitting down with all of them and actually getting something sorted at this point.
Yeah, and I will caveat that sort of statements about there's no better place. Like, worst case scenario, if all three leave, there's probably better places. Footballing wise, you kind of need 2 of the 3 to stay for it to still be a better place.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Otherwise, that is a massive rebuild job.
You need to get them all in the room at the same time and go, you sign, and we're all sorted. Yeah.
I think it's mad. The whole thing's crazy, because it's all in that's the final point of this, is that it's all intrinsically linked, because every one of them wants to be, I would guess, the top earner at the football club, if not, you know, or at least maintain kind of where they're at. Trent is the only one who's got better years ahead of him, you know, in terms of who's like, could still improve. I mean, Salah's improved this year, I guess, but so he will be thinking that, well, I get more every time I get my new contract. So what does this one look like? He's not wrong to ask for the mega bucks, particularly for Real Madrid. There's a club going to offer him that money. But yeah, it will be, and you know, it will be interesting. But you're dead right. If all 3 of them leave, then what's left is that's a significant chunk. I think Alisson's is next summer, the summer after as well. Diaz's is next summer. I think Konate's is that. You know,
I think they're sorting Konate's now, aren't they? Thankfully, but still,
and I agree with Diaz.
Yeah, Diaz. I think he came out publicly, or he sort of, you know, quoted as saying, "I'm having a ball here." So that's really positive. Yeah,
I agree. I think Chris nailed it a good 20 minutes ago when he just said, at this point, if there's no news, just can it all and just say, look, I'll decide at the end of this. Whether you've decided today or not, unless you're going to announce you've signed a pre-contract agreement with Real Madrid or you've signed a contract extension to Liverpool, then do yourself a favour, do everyone a favour, and just publicly put a pin in it till the summer.
So what could the hand gesture actually mean? Right, so we've got the first one.
He's just practising his ventriloquist act for New Year's.
One.
Yeah.
For me, it could be Bellingham's already been in my ear, lads. I'm off.
Well, he did that celebration, didn't he, Bellingham? Did you see?
Did he? No, don't say that. I was joking.
No, his latter days at Dortmund, he did that when there's a lot of transfer rumours about him. I think when we were probably being linked to him, to be honest with you, he celebrated like that, and then he went to Real Madrid.
Yeah, anyway. Bollocks to it all. We'll find out soon enough. I missed this one earlier. It wasn't really relevant to the conversation as we moved on, but Real McCoy came back and said, LFC haven't scored more than 3 goals when Jota start. Ever?
Atalanta, he's got a hat-trick against Atalanta, won 5-0.
Bollocks.
Yeah, fake McCoy.
Excellent. Nice. Right, we're going to take a very short break. When we return, we're going to be wrapping up 2024. Hey, I am absolutely delighted to say that The Man Who Stole the World Cup, the book written by my dad, published by myself this year, is available now to buy. You can get the limited edition signed version exclusively on redmenmerch.com. When they are sold out forever. There is a simple way of getting it as well. You can get it on Amazon in a hardback print to order version, or the Kindle edition is available on there as well. The Man Who Stole the World Cup is a fun adventure-packed time travel story about kids from Liverpool pulled from Liverpool's double-winning season in 85-86 into the plot to steal the Jules Rimet World Cup trophy in 1966 that would ruin football for all time. And three adventurers set about making sure that they can save football in their time and in all future times as well. Something to be enjoyed by children, by young adults, and actually anyone who's got a little bit of love for football and geeky culture in their lives. Yes, get it. It's a perfect stocking filler for someone you love in your life this Christmas. The Man Who Stole the World Cup. You'll love it. Hey, welcome back. Yes, we had one more comment on the Trent stuff before we move on. David John, who's a member here for 33 months. Well done, David John. Says maybe Trent will get a persuasive visit similar to the ones Gerrard got, allegedly. God, I mean that's the other difference, of course. I do, as much as people perceptually take football loads more seriously now, most of it is done behind screens, whereas 20 years ago there were a lot more lads who would be sent round to your house to fill you in if you didn't want to play for the football club. So, you know, in that regard, if that's why he wants to live in Alderley Edge, then fair play. You know what I mean? Like, and the boss houses and probably, again, local environment. But yeah, anyway. Okay, 2024. Let's cast our minds back. So not quite this time last year, because obviously we're still in December, we're still in this year, but we beat Newcastle 4-2. I think this is New Year's Day, to go 3 points clear at the top of the league. Mohamed Salah headed off to AFCON. Jurgen Klopp was our manager. There was
Good times.
There was early quadruple talk in how Liverpool were going.
Good times.
Halcyon days.
I mean, it's insane when you actually start to think back to it, because that doesn't feel a year ago to me, Chris, now. That feels like another lifetime, almost. I've forgotten so much of what's happened last year.
And yet, the more things change, the more they stay the same. You know, Mo Salah's still scoring goals, we're still top of the league, and there's still quadruple talk.
Yeah,
it's the performances for me. That's the biggest difference. I felt last season, even when we were top of the league, and even when we were winning, we weren't winning in the same way, and this control that Arne Slot's brought in, and the system that he's integrated, and he's not demanding everything out of his players all the time. It felt like we would to maintain our position at the top of the table last season. Felt like we were really squeezing every drop out of every player, and I don't feel like that this season. I just wanted to add that.
I think it's a really interesting point. I mean, it's just to go through some of the sort of points and going all the way back to the Jurgen Klopp stuff. Dan, it does feel weird to be sat here so happy with our lot in life, because it didn't feel like there was a future for Liverpool post Jurgen Klopp in some regards. And we had that sort of crest of a wave of like, right, let's all do it for Jurgen. But of course, the legs completely fell off the squad. We managed to secure the League Cup, which was great, wonderful moment in its own sort of unique way. But we didn't know then that was as good as that season was almost going to get. It feels weird to have lived through it all. The emotion of the big Klopp farewell in that, of course, and to be able to come out the other end.
Yeah, absolutely does. Even the day itself, I remember sitting upstairs, like, to hark back to the day he obviously announced he was leaving, just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Ultimately, like, it just completely took me by surprise, as it did everybody. And we've actually recorded I think it was like a Norwich FA Cup build-up show.
Steve just didn't believe it.
Did not believe me at all. When I ran downstairs to tell him, he was like, "What are you talking about?" No, it happened. That's a real thing. And that day in itself was a whirlwind, wasn't it? From that moment on, like, it was just insane the amount of stuff that we had to do. But yeah, it's been an emotional one. It's been a ride. But I'm with you. I never for a single second thought, especially when. Listen, we then lived in the world whereby it was going to be Xabi Alonso, and we sort of romanticised that appointment as being the obvious one. Obviously, what he was doing with Bayer Leverkusen, but also the connection he already had with the club. It felt like a very
perfect fit.
Yeah, it felt like a very perfect fit, and a very
Real Madrid again.
Smart. Maybe.
It reminded me of when we sold Fowler. And we got Nicholas Anelka on loan, and you're like, well, I'd rather have Robbie Fowler, but if I'm going to deal with this loss, let me at least look at Nicholas Anelka playing football while I'm doing it.
How did we not do that?
Mad, isn't it? Still mad.
Because we had Alaji Diouf to secure Chris. Jesus Christ.
Obviously, I do the on this days for our socials, and every now and then I get the one when he signed, and always part of the goals that he scored whilst he was with the club, and every time I think, should have kept him, he's brilliant. But then the Alonso thing came and went, then Ruben Amorim flitted for a little bit, and then it was Arne Slot, and it wasn't underwhelming, that would be a disservice. service. But it was a bit like, oh, okay, didn't expect that really, you know what I mean? But yeah, and not for one single second did I think I'd be sat here having lived through all of that with the position that we're in now, in European and domestic terms. But it's been something. You touched upon the Carabao Cup final there, and that will live long in the memory for so many reasons. That to do it against Chelsea, first and foremost, a billionaire bottle jobs, but with that team that finished that game was just a remarkable achievement. But again, one more, like, just to come off your point, James, a moment ago, like, it did feel as though we were flying by the seat of our pants a little bit last season, but even more so post Klopp announcement, because then everything just became heightened, and it's a little bit like Arsenal, the way we often speak about their emotions getting the better of them. Everything was so important on then, 100, because it was all for Klopp, and every single setback felt crushing because we wanted to do it. So as a fan base, as a team, as a squad, it just felt too on the edge all the time.
I always feel like, as Liverpool fans, whenever we plan for success, it's always when we fail. Like, if you're ever like going, and when we win, this is what it's going to do. So the people who are booking flights to Ireland at times and all that kind of stuff, like,
Guilty.
you know, people planning what they were going to do for the parades and all those kind of things, you almost lose track of what's going to happen before. And look, it's not our fault, it's never fans' fault, you know, because, you know, we're not the ones who score or concede or do all the bits and pieces on the pitch. But yeah, it had too much emotion. It was accepted almost. I think there wasn't really the fight there. I think we were masking our sadness a little bit with like, oh, it's going to be okay because we're going to go and win and that'll make up for it, knowing that really the trophies were relevant. It was an On This Day thing on Facebook that if I tell you, I was from Twitter on the AI wrap up thing. It came up with me saying that if they wanted to do an open top bus tour for just Jurgen Klopp, I'd go to that without there being a trophy to celebrate. And that was 100%. That was, in my head, that was 100% true. The good thing that he did in hindsight, James, was actually, it felt terrible at the time, but like, you know, we lost the Merseyside derby and we crashed out of Europe and the league title challenge fell by the wayside. What it did was it lowered expectations for this season terrifically from outside of Liverpool. People forget that we were good. Really good up until a point of that season, and it wasn't probably the huge gulf to get us to where we are today from there. And
that's all down to Arne Slot. I mean, and actually the back room of the club as well in getting someone of that calibre in. Because they will have interviewed God knows how many managers for that post. They will have really done their due diligence.
Do you remember when Gary O'Neill was linked?
Yes, but everyone would. They will have had a chat with so many
Thomas
managers.
Frank was
100%. But a masterstroke to getting, because my biggest fear was, and we've seen this at other clubs as well. You know, when you look at Chelsea post Mourinho, for example, trying to follow a manager who is not only really successful but also a really big personality, that is really hard to do. And for them to identify someone like Arne Slot, who is really calm, really laid back, speaks really well, doesn't really get flustered, doesn't give you those sound bites and that passion that we expected from Klopp and that emotion. That for me was the biggest thing, is getting a manager in with the mentality to just calm everything down and go, right, this is what I want from you, this is what I expect, this is how we're going to play. Let's go and do that thing. And for him to do that, and with a group of players, like you rightly said, who were absolutely brilliant, but needed someone like him to come in and go, right, I'm not going to put you all on the treatment table for running, miles and miles and miles and miles. That was an absolute masterstroke, and now we're, reaping the rewards.
I think James makes a really interesting point about how he deals with the media and stuff, but I think it's probably most telling how the squad have spoken about him. Because you need someone who is going to be able to talk to these multi-millionaire footballers
who've won everything
and who've just experienced some of the greatest days some of the greatest days they'll ever experience, with a manager who's nurtured them and fought for them in every single situation possible. Like, you can bring a manager in like a Ten Hag as an example, who is just going to piss everybody off in the squad because he's a knobhead. Like, they identified Slot not only for everything that he does off the pitch, but how he talks.
That's what players. I mean. That's what I mean. The personality of him.
Yeah,
it's
right.
perfect.
And like the way Curtis Jones was coming out in pre-season and talking about how it's going to be more controlled. He clearly got his ideas across very quickly about what he wants. The way Trent Alexander-Arnold recently has spoken about, he's never worked with anyone as tactical as him and all this type of stuff. These are just things. These are glimpses into behind the scenes. We're not shining a light on everything that Slot is doing, but we're glimpsing some of the best bits that he's probably doing behind the scenes.
If Arne Slot could have coached Wile E. Coyote, Roadrunner would have been dead within days because like the wasted energy that's gone in.
Why are you running?
That needed to be made, Paul.
I'm glad we all waited for that.
Just dig a hole, put a trap down for it.
Yeah, what are you doing? Just get a fucking gun and shoot it in the face.
Just turn your body that much of an angle, then it'd be there.
Because just that thing about the way it feels like the wasted energy and emotion almost that we put in. Look, I'm really struggling.
We don't need to be revisionist, and we don't have to be about Klopp though either. We can love everything that happened.
Well, this is my point
and you can still improve things.
I'm struggling to get my head around this season. I really am, because I'm like, where's the feeling? And where's the emotion? And where's that? Because they've become so synonymous with following Liverpool under Jurgen Klopp. That's there. It's like the heart on the sleeve. Everything's like if you're not sweating or bleeding, then you're probably not doing it right. So I'm so conditioned to support Liverpool in that way now that I don't really know how to support this team in the same way. And the only thing I can compare it to is it must have been, I know we did the Shankly to Paisley stuff to death over the summer, and I always feel that's dangerous ground because you're setting yourself up for failure when you're using those kind of comparisons. But,
however,
I'm going to anyway.
You know what we did, and it does feel a bit like that. It does feel like, Shankly was very much like, I'm going to stand up on a box and do a big rousing speech, whereas Slot doesn't seem like that kind of guy. And it does feel as though this is much more like the Liverpool that our dads had, that just won relentlessly.
It's almost like a professionalism.
Yes.
We're a professional outfit now. The emotion's kind of been taken out of it. We're very, very businesslike. How we approach each game, each opportunity, how he's got the players speaking, how the fans are on board. It just feels very professional.
I agree, but what makes us so dangerous, and I absolutely wholeheartedly agree with everything everyone just said there, is we still have that to fall back on. I think we've still got that Klopp fighting us because so many of the players have been brought up on that and have that within them. So if a game ever isn't going our way, we can just tap into that and go, we'll have 20 mintes of this then, and we're going to absolutely...
Let's trade haymakers in the middle of the ring for a bit.
To have that for your repertoire is brilliant, by the way.
And the fan base as well. And whether Klopp said this but I'm sure he would probably agree with that idea of he didn't give anything to the fan base that wasn't already there. No. He just reminded us that we had it. So you're right. There's been those games this season where the crowds had to go, nah, fuck this, we'll go for it. But actually, he's developing a football team that doesn't need it
as much,
anywhere near as much as we did previously.
Just finally on that, in terms of one last point, and sort of the Klopp passing over the torch, Arne Slot stressed how brilliant a squad he inherited, but an actual final piece of masterstroke genius from Klopp was that final day of the season when he started that song, albeit whatever. But it's, in terms of giving the next guy a leg up, like what possible better place to start than the person we absolutely adore stood in the middle of Anfield singing a song or starting a chant for him. Just brilliant.
Yeah, and it's funny because what else can you do? You could go and do a handshake, or you had that thing where like Gerrard was given the 8 shirt to cater, that kind of stuff, and it all feels a bit ceremonial, a bit for the cameras. But Slot, like, bear in mind, anyone who's ever started a chant before knows that can sometimes not go well for you.
He was lucky that Afterground thought he was singing his own song.
I wake up in a cold sweat from the times that I've tried to start a chant in the upper main stand. People just look at you like, will you sit down?
Yeah. Honestly, have you tried Nunes? Because that goes off big time if you start that one.
But that's fair play to him, because you're right. He totally cut the legs off the anxieties and the fears and all that kind of stuff.
Also, we announced it.
Technically, the official announcement came from you.
But the backing of him, what a place to start that is. If you Slot, you know what I mean?
And listen, a lot of people won't like this, but like the ownership or the football operations of Liverpool need so much credit in this as well, don't they? For identifying Slot and getting Michael Edwards back and bringing Richard Hughes in and all that type of stuff. Obviously, Richard hasn't really
they've not done anything
yet. We might have a busy couple of days, we hope. But you can see that we're on the straight and narrow, and that's what matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. So looking back on the year, and probably let's mainly do this season because I find it's tough, and mainly because we were quite crap apart from that League Cup win around that time last season. So let's not dredge back through it too much. But I want to do best moments of this season so far and top 3 players of the season so far as well. We'll throw some random suggestions for moments out, and people in the comments feel free to chuck some in as well. And then from each of you, I want your top 3 players.
Okay.
Best moments. I'm going to start.
Go on.
Fucking Real Madrid.
Yeah.
We beat Real Madrid in a game of football.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I'll add to that. I'll go one better. Connor Bradley.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
That was mine on Mbappe.
Yeah.
Connor Bradley reminding everyone asking Mbappe who the fuck you think you are.
Yeah.
That was the moment.
You've got
of that
shares
game.
in Connor Bradley.
We're going into business together.
Mine was the week, to be honest. Beating Real
City,
Madrid,
yeah,
then
yeah.
beating City, having Conor Bradley do that to Mbappe, and having Kelleher save a penalty against Mbappe, and dominate Man City before the crap run, or at the start
Before
of their
anyone
crap
knew
run.
Man City
Yeah,
were
you know what I
rubbish.
mean? So for me, it was that entire week was just glorious. Because I'll tell you why, and everyone will know exactly why, but I was so fucking nervous. Like that, we'd spoken about that week since the start of the season. So to just come through it and not concede a goal and score 4 was just,
You know, if you remember now, in the dim and distant past, we'd had an easy start to the season. But it was like, but then what's going to happen? We start to play good teams, and then we got
going to beat them as well.
Slightly harder teams, and we dealt with them, apart from Forest. And then that week was meant to be the one. How good are you really? Amazing was the answer in short. Yeah, no, I thoroughly enjoyed Real Madrid and all the things that came within it. Anyone else?
Leverkusen.
Leverkusen's a great shout.
Yeah, I think that was a bit of another sort of coming of age performance, if you like, in the very early days of Arne Slot's Liverpool. Because again, sort of to spin off the points the guys made there, them coming to us, having done what they did in the Bundesliga last year, was something, you know what I mean? And to us to just sweep them aside like they were bang average, and putting a performance like that. Luis Diaz obviously came to the fore. That was the first time I think we'd seen him in this sort of false 9 role that he's doing. Gets a hat-trick on the night. Yeah, proper performance.
That you're dead right on that one, because that's another one, and we talk about this ramping up of the season. The Alonso thing is there. You know, what if this guy that we didn't convince to become our manager is better than, he's the undefeated champions of the Bundesliga with Xabi Alonso. Here's what you could have won, and then we just rocked up. And there's nothing better. It's one of my favourite things in football is when you've got a past hero, but he's on the other side, and you save your applause for them until the end. And it's done. And he had to do the big clap to the Cobb as he walked off, having had his pants pulled down by his Liverpool team. He had to walk off, and did the penguin walk off the pitch with his arse out, clapping around. Everyone, his little spanked arse walking around. Go, yeah, thanks so much, Xabi. Well done, mate. Congratulations. No, I loved a little bit of that. Any more?
A personal highlight, and it wasn't from this season, but if you'll allow me, was Josh Williams went on holiday as we were doing all the interviews with
It's an outlandish shout.
It was in his words, I went on holiday and I come back and you've got Pep Blinders for the deep dive.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
That was a hell of a week. That
was some week actually.
That was special game.
Oh my
that really
goodness.
was.
It was like that was a hell
From a
of a week.
personal point of view, that's right up there. Actually, from what we were doing.
Obviously, I've always said the best things that I've ever done as part of Redmen was the Coutinho dizzy penalties has always been up there. Interviewing Jürgen in Boston, Pep Blinders, I actually loved it more than interviewing Jürgen, which is weird. And the Zoe's place, they're like my 4 favourite fucking things.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah.
Yeah, really good stuff. Some suggestion in the comment. Pat says a win at Old Trafford. Nice. Jamin says Old Trafford, great shout. A few other people have picked that one as well. I mean, have we become a bit complacent with Old Trafford wins? I don't know, but it's certainly.
I mean, listen, I think we'll better that this week.
Yeah, 3-0 against them. Another sort of slightly different highlight for me so far this season would be Curtis Jones' performance against Chelsea, which I know is quite niche.
He was the best player on the pitch.
But
there was
he was
£300 million midfielders on the pitch for them.
Ran the show.
Yeah.
Absolutely ran the show. So yeah, that was a really pleasing moment because he does get a lot of criticism, and I feel like a lot of it's unwarranted. So for him to step up in that way felt good. Felt good to me.
Yeah, no, I like that. And look, it's impossible to pick out one, but like almost every single time Ryan Gravenberch's pulled on a shirt for us this season, like he has been such a pleasure to watch, and it's because I didn't know enough about him, honestly. You know, I knew he was good and I could see that he was a player, but it's very rare that a player plays for Liverpool, and we haven't had it in a while, where you learn something new about them every single 90 minutes of football. You watch, they'll do something that you didn't know they were capable of, and that's a really rare thing with him. Because he's such a young footballer as well. I mean, he's 22. Yeah. You know, and you know, you would never know that to look at it. You know, look at how he's built, but also how he's played this season. But yeah, every time I think I've got him pegged, he'll do something in a match, and I'll be like, oh wow, really? He's got that as well. So yeah, he's been terrific in that.
Some
one.
great moments. Well done, Conor Bradley, for the win. By far and away, the moment of the season.
Because everybody in that ground just drew breath. Because you knew it. You saw it coming, but you thought, don't do that. Don't mistime it by even a second. And dear God, it was the somersault, the photos after it.
Ray gun for a minute there, Killian.
Upside down, brilliant, glorious.
If you want to pick up a commemorative Conor Bradley, Kylian Mbappe t-shirt, you can do on redmenmerch.com.
I've never seen that.
One of the
that's wonderful.
We'll get you one of them.
That's
Liverpool
wonderful.
history available in a variety of colours on redmenmerch.com as well. Right, okay. We're going to pick our top 3 players of the season so far. I'm going to start with Dan Club, and then I'm going to move closer to around the desk.
Or just
3 to 1.
3 to 1. Okay. Cody Gakpo, number 3.
Oh.
Always been a massive Cody Gakpo fan, so he goes in at 3 for me. I have been really pleased with his form. Certainly of late, he feels like he's nailed down that left wing spot, and I'm just genuinely happy for him because and listen, we all just wax the book about Jurgen Klopp, and rightfully so, but he was messed around a little bit, for want of a better expression, I think, in terms of positional stuff. He played midfield, he was just anywhere, basically, but I've been really, really impressed with him. Second is the aforementioned Ryan Gravenberch, just been a revelation. Okay. Absolute revelation, sensational, and number 1. I mean,
it's given
Mo Salah, isn't it?
Okay.
Number 3, Kelleher.
Damn it, James! Fuck off!
Shout.
I was going to. Have we said his clean sheet percentage?
What is
54 point something, I think.
To come in like that, and as far as I could see, make one mistake. One mistake in the whole time, Newcastle, just unbelievable to play in Europe like that, to play away from home, clean sheets, commanding, penalty saves. You can't ask for any more from a number 2. So he's my number 3. He's my 3rd pick. Gravenberch.
Fucking fuming.
So I'm so sorry. Why are you?
I'm glad I didn't say. I thought about it, made up. I didn't say.
Really cross. Gravenberch number 2 for every reason you said. I think he's benefited hugely from having his role has been defined for him now. He's had a sit down with Slot at the beginning of the season and gone, right, this is what I require from a number 6. This is what I want you to do. And within those parameters, you can do all the wonderful Gravenberch things that we're learning about every week, but he knows what his role is. That's your bit, and he's doing it exceptionally well. And then, number 1, there can only be one, I think, really, is Mohamed Salah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll change from Kelleher, although I agree, James. I think he is definitely not best, but the top 3 most important players. Kelleher is in there this season, because the season could have fallen apart, and it didn't. He was in goal for those Real Madrid and Manchester City games and stuff like that, wasn't he? I mean, just outstanding. So I'll go as number 3 then. Diaz.
Yeah, I'm glad someone's mentioned Luis Diaz.
I think he's got to go in there. Now, of his 8 Premier League goals, 4 of them have been like match winners, which is a huge percentage of. Mo's got 4 match winners technically, but he's got like 17 goals or whatever it is. Now, a match winner is termed, I suppose, in statistics as a goal you score like when you're drawing. So last night was classed as a Luis Diaz match winner because he scores the first when it's level.
Yes.
and we go on to win 5-0. So
really?
technically
That's
speaking,
ridiculous.
it is. there are a few times,
that's
but
what you
like,
think I've heard. Yeah.
but they didn't score, so his was the only goal that mattered in that regard.
It was just football masturbation.
I really struggle with that.
Yeah,
I'll
no.
be honest.
Listen, I do too. I didn't write the rules.
No, fair enough.
I'm just telling you what they are.
So that's 4 of his 8 have been them.
4 of his 8 have been them. Mo's 4 of his 17 or whatever have been them. But like, look, he started the season on fire and has improved almost every single week in the same way that Gravenberch has and Salah has and stuff like that. And he's had a change of position and everything else. I just think he's massively important to what Liverpool have done this season. I think number 2 for me is Ryan Gravenberch. I just don't see how we could be the same side without him. And he's put to bed all the talk about the Zubimendis and everything else, which I just didn't think was possible. It was a bit more like what you were saying. Like, I just didn't see him as a 6-man, and it's brilliant. And number 1 is Mo Salah, and I feel terrible for not including Virgil van Dijk.
Well, this is yeah. I'm glad you mentioned Diaz, because I was turn this over in my head. If no one said Kelleher, I was going to proffer Kelleher as a suggestion, because a bit like Adrian's role in the title-winning season, you can't discount being the understudy for a world-class goalie, and you're not really noticing that he's not there is a really high watermark there. I'm glad Diaz got mentioned, because I was going to go for. I think the low-hanging fruit options are Van Dijk, Salah, Gravenberch. And sometimes that's fine, because, it might be fine to go with that. But I think Kelleher deserves a mention. I think Diaz, if Konate hadn't picked up that injury, I think he would be right in there as well. For me, because, and for me, my number 1 pick is Gravenberch. And I'm putting him ahead of Salah, and I'm putting him ahead of Van Dijk because of what Chris said there. We already knew Van Dijk was the best defender in the world, and Salah was one of the best players on the planet, and they have gone to that level again, and perhaps in Salah's case even improved slightly. We'll never know whether Van Dijk's improved, because we just take so much of what he does for granted, and it's so much harder to measure those things. But Gravenberch has gone from effectively 4th or 5th choice midfielder for us to our first name on the team sheet.
Felt like a luxury
midfielder. Yeah, and that is when you consider that Declan Rice cost £100 million and Caicedo cost £115 million and Enzo Fernandez cost £105 million or whatever.
We absolutely eBayed them to fucking shit, didn't we?
Yeah. That's a very niche reference to how Chris refuses to let other people have their cake and eat it on when he's
I
lost
did
an
it with a pair of Doc Martens the other day. I was like, fucking hell, no, I'll keep going. I got to about 70 quid. I was like, you can have that. I had no interest over 50. I was just driving the price up.
Such a bad human being. Such a bad human being. But to the point, so Van Dijk has maintained value, Salah has maintained value, Gravenberch has gone from being a £20 million midfielder to an £80 to £100 million midfielder in half a season from the performances he's put in, if that's what the going rate is for defensive midfielders. So I've got him as at the top of the pile for me, because again, my expectations versus reality are wildly different. And I think Konate deserves the mention because, again, Gerald Quansah starts the season. Gerald Quansah is in everyone's thinking the better choice as the partner, because he's seen as being better on the ball. He's really got everything. He looks like the perfect hybrid between Matip and Van Dijk. And then Ibu comes in and you're like, oh man, yeah, him. That guy, that one from the Champions League final against Real Madrid, that Ibu, yes please. And then every week, without fail, turning up, playing twice a week at that level, go ahead. And he's been desperately looking to pick up the injury. I think
playing better than Van Dijk. I think he was
at the time when he got injured. Yeah, I agree.
I think when we won the European Cup, I think Matip was playing better than Van Dijk as well. Van Dijk's consistency is unheralded. But like, there are spells when the other centre half plays better, and it's because they're playing alongside Virgil van Dijk, of course. Yeah. So disrespect to him, but Konate, look at the goals we've shipped since he's gone out. Joe Gomez is playing brilliantly, and yet we're shipping so many more goals.
Yeah, definitely. There's levels in that. For me, I think Virgil van Dijk is still the bar across well footy for centre halves. So, if we had to do a definitive top 3, I think everyone's got Gravenberch in.
Yeah.
Has everyone got Salah in?
Yeah.
3 number ones he's got, I think, and 1 number 2.
Were you
Okay.
2 for Salah?
I
went
didn't
2
go.
for Salah.
Yeah, I would probably go 2 Salah, 3 Van Dijk.
Yeah, we were all 1
We
for
were
Salah,
all
so
One,
Salah's
one
1.
for Salah. Salah's the number 1.
So
We were all
Gravenberch
2 for
therefore.
Gravenberch, yeah.
Yeah,
You 1 for you, so
Gravenberch 2.
And then
we all had a different...
mixed. How many people had Van Dijk in there? No one, just me.
Just you. I actually wanted to go Kelleher.
Everybody
but I
wanted
changed up.
Kelleher, but I said...
So
I
okay,
like
so
Kelleher.
it's between Kelleher, Van Dijk, Diaz,
I clearly Gakpo, but I think it's Kelleher.
Gakpo, and Kanate.
Yeah.
Anyone want to change that to the
I'll
sake
go
of
to
unification?
Kelleher.
I'm happy to go to Kelleher because he was my 4th one,
Okay.
if you like, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so there we go, definitively, according to the Redmen TV panel here.
Nailed
Top
it.
3 players of the season so far. Player of the season so far is Mohamed Salah, followed by Ryan Gravenberch, followed by Quaveen Kelleher. So well done to those 3.
Who's the most improved?
Prestigious.
Because like
Gravenberch,
Gravenberch,
right.
but like Gakpo too, right? He's got to be there or thereabouts.
Well, I don't know, because he was that good when we signed him.
Curtis Jones?
Ooh, Curtis Jones.
Maybe.
I think I'm seeing
Maybe
more shouts from
Kanate from the back of last
McAllister.
season.
There's more shouts from McAllister in the comments than Jones, and I think Jones has had a better season than McAllister.
I don't know. I think McAllister's key. Absolutely key. And the point we made earlier on about under the radar sort of rings true with what we're saying here. I think I think he's one of them players whereby his teammates appreciate what he does more than maybe what the fans do. Like the teammates will be the first to praise him in any circumstance. We don't always notice it necessarily. He doesn't get applauded as the headlines that some of the others might, but he's absolutely integral to us. I maintain that. And yesterday was a real sort of coming to the fore type performance. Next week he'll probably just return to his consistent 8 level out of 10, but he's just absolutely superb.
Curtis Jones, 7 combined goals and assists this season, more than any of the Liverpool midfield.
Yeah, I still think it's McAllister though.
I do.
Over him, just because I just think he has been more important because he's played more minutes, more than anything. On the most improved, there is a shout that it's Salah, based on the back end of last season's form. From going right back to the beginning of the podcast.
Finished. Oh God. No, the answer, and hopefully a new contract incoming for him as well. Listen, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast for 2024. It's been our absolute pleasure to talk to you guys every single week. There's more from us. We're going to be heading over to the Bias Football Pod. Minus James is going off to find his matching velour tracky bottoms and just luxuriate at home on the couch. Good on him, as we should all be doing on New Year's. Thank you to everyone who's bought Redmen merch this year, and everyone who's picked up a copy of my dad's book as well. Links to those things will be in the descriptions underneath. The book's on Amazon and on Redmen merch as well if you want a signed copy. And thank you so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful New Year's, and we'll see you in 2025 when, spoilers, Liverpool will still be top of the league and the Champions League.